It's June 7th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with the stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the ongoing medical dispute here in South Korea. Professors affiliated with one of the country's main hospitals, Seoul National University, have voted to halt medical services from later this month, unless the government completely revokes its administrative actions against the trainee doctors. A UNESCO advisory body has once again deferred the nomination of Japan's controversial Sado gold mine. Additional documents have been requested from Japan. South Korea crushed Singapore 7-0 to secure a spot in the next phase of Asian World Cup qualifying in their match on Thursday. Next up is a game against China here in Seoul next Tuesday. Professors at Seoul National University have agreed not to perform their duties and services from later this month, saying they won't return unless the government lifts administrative actions against trainee doctors. Lee Soo-jin starts us off.
Concerns are being raised about widespread walkouts at hospitals after medical professors at Seoul National University announced their decision to suspend outpatient services and surgeries from later this month. The Korean Medical Association, which represents private practitioners, has been conducting a vote among its 130,000 members this week on whether to suspend medical services. This comes after the Emergency Committee of Professors at Seoul Medical University and Seoul National University Hospital announced on Thursday that all departments, excluding essential departments such as emergency and intensive care units, will suspend outpatient services and surgeries starting June 17. The decision was made following a vote conducted with professors at 4 hospitals affiliated with Seoul National University. The Emergency Committee said that the suspensions will continue until the government completely withdraws administrative actions against residents and carries out measures to bring the current situation back to normal. The South Korean government on Tuesday announced that it will halt administrative procedures against trainee doctors, such as license suspension for trainee doctors who return to work. The professors at Seoul National University are demanding a complete withdrawal of administrative actions and not just a suspension. The government also announced on the same day that it will allow hospitals to accept residents' resignation letters, giving them the option to look for work at other hospitals. The KMA is expected to announce the results of the vote and its stance going forward at a meeting to be held at the KMA building on Sunday afternoon. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
And then the advisory body to a committee of UNESCO has withheld the nomination of a controversial former Japanese gold mine for World Heritage designation. The latest decision could have a decisive impact on Japan's second attempt for the inscription slated for July. Lee Seung-jae has more.
The International Council on Monuments and Sites is one of the 3 advisories to the UNESCO World Heritage Committee, which recommends World Heritage designations. On Thursday, the Japanese Agency for Cultural Affairs announced that the council recommended that its Sado mine be withheld from World Heritage designation, demanding additional documents. The recommendation comes as Japan applied for the inscription of the controversial mine for the second time in January last year, after its previous submission in February 2022 was turned down due to incomplete documents. Japan has been pushing to inscribe the mine, which in the 17th century was one of the world's largest producers of gold, on the World Heritage list, but its bid has led to immense protests from South Korea over the lack of its historical context. Seoul says Tokyo failed to include the fact that the mine was where thousands of Koreans were forced to work during World War II during the Japanese colonial period. South Korea called on Japan to include a full account of the mine's history. The advisory body's evaluation is regarded as having a decisive impact on the World Heritage Committee's final decision on the inscription. An inscription on the World Heritage list requires over 2/3 of votes from member states, but it's customary for the final decision to be delivered upon consensus. That decision will be announced at a meeting in New Delhi in July. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
A Georgia appeals court indefinitely put a pause on the elections subversion conspiracy case against Donald Trump. Now, will things get better for Trump from now on? We're joined by Chris Cascale from VOA. Welcome back.
Good to be with you.
Chris, let's jump right into it. Why the pause? What was the court's reasoning?
Well, the pause will allow the appeals court to review the lower court judge's ruling, allowing Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis to remain on the case. You might remember that Trump and other defendants argued that she should be taken off the case because she had a romantic relationship with the special prosecutor, and they argued that it posed a conflict of interest. Now, in this appeal, the Georgia Court of Appeals order on Wednesday prevents Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee from moving forward with pretrial motions in the election subversion case as he had planned while this appeal is pending.
Well, then the question is, will the case not occur before the 2024 presidential election in November? How are legal analysts expecting?
Well, it's important to note some of the dates that are involved in this latest appeal. It was already unlikely that this case was going to go to trial before the November general election, when Trump is expected to be the Republican nominee for president. But this makes it probably even more likely that this will be delayed even further. Now, the appeals court on Monday registered the appeals filed by Trump and 8 other defendants and said that if oral argument is requested and granted, it is tentatively scheduled for October 4th, which is about a month before the election here. The court will then have until mid-March of next year to rule, and even then the losing side will be able to appeal to the Georgia Supreme Court. So that mid-March date really takes it out of play for the election. Now, you might remember this election subversion case all started when a Fulton County grand jury in August of last year indicted Trump and 18 others, accusing them of taking part in a sprawling scheme to illegally try to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in Georgia. 4 defendants have pleaded guilty after reaching deals with prosecutors, but Trump and the others have pleaded not guilty.
Right, and speaking of Georgia, apparently voters in Georgia were nearly evenly split over the guilty conviction of Trump in his hush money case over in New York. Now, that's according to the latest poll released on Wednesday. Tell us more about that.
Well, in this latest poll, Trump holds a slight lead over President Joe Biden, 49 to 44% in a head-to-head matchup in the battleground state of Georgia, according to the latest Quinnipiac University poll of registered voters in that state. Independents, an important voting bloc, are evenly split, with 45% backing Trump and 45% backing Biden. Now, in a 6-way hypothetical race that includes other candidates, Trump leads with 43% support. Biden receives 37% support, and independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. receives 8% support. Now, voters in this poll were asked about the guilty verdict in the New York City criminal trial in connection with those hush money payments. Half of the voters agree with the verdict, while 44% disagree. When voters were asked how the guilty verdict impacts their vote for Trump, 22% said it makes them less likely to vote for him, while 23% said it makes them more likely to vote for him, and 54% say it doesn't make a difference at all in their vote. Now, breaking that number down among independents, 18% say the verdict makes them less likely to vote for Trump, 21% of independents say it makes them more likely to vote for Trump, and 61% say it doesn't make a difference at all.
Well, then what do the poll results mean? I mean, why does such a poll even matter in Georgia?
Well, because Georgia is one of those so-called battleground states, swing states, along with Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Now, it's important to remember, and we say this a lot, that the U.S. presidential election is not a national popular vote. It's a series of contests in the 50 states in which the winning candidate has to achieve 270 electoral votes. So we're always talking about that race to 270 in presidential elections. Now, bear this out. In the last election in 2020, Biden's winning margin in the 6 swing states in 2020 totaled just over 300,000 votes out of 158 million total cast for president nationwide. And the Washington Post reported that the winner would have changed by flipping just over 81,000 votes in 4 states, and those 4 states were Arizona, Nevada, Washington, and Georgia. So we see how close the polls are, and we see how close they are in these battleground states.
Definitely. Let's talk about other battleground states. Namely, you mentioned Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. How are Trump and Biden doing at the moment?
Well, in the latest poll from this week, they are in a statistical dead heat. And that is a Florida Atlantic University poll from Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. The Michigan survey results show that Biden and Trump are tied at 45% among voters. However, Biden is behind Trump by 2% in Pennsylvania among all voters, with Trump getting 45% and Biden 43%. The survey results in Wisconsin show that the candidates are neck and neck. Biden is 2% ahead among all voters, 40% for Biden and 38% for Trump. But these results, I've thrown out a bunch of numbers, are all within the margin of error in this poll, which is plus or minus 3 percentage points. So you can see that we're going to be talking about this all the way through November.
All right. Thank you, Chris, for that report. As always, we appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
South Korea's men's national football team booked a spot in the third round of Asian qualification for the 2026 FIFA World Cup on Thursday, comfortably beating Singapore by goals to nil. Lee Gang-in and Tottenham Hotspur's Son Heung-min both scored braces at Singapore's National Stadium, but the Paris Saint-Germain man opening the scoring after 9 minutes. Ulsan HDFC forward Chu Min-gyu scored his first international goal and set up 3 others. Bae-Jun-ho of Stoke City and Wolverhampton's Hwang Hee-chan completed the barrage of goals in the 79th and 81st minutes. The Taegu Warriors will take on China in Seoul on Tuesday night, with China needing a draw to guarantee qualification. Russian President Vladimir Putin has expressed his appreciation to South Korea for not directly supplying weapons to Ukraine, while warning Western countries that have provided Kyiv with military support. Our Shin Ha-young has the details.
Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Wednesday that he highly appreciates South Korea not directly supplying weapons to Ukraine, adding that Moscow is ready to restore relations with Seoul. The remarks came during a meeting with senior officials from international news agencies ahead of the annual St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. But Putin, while not mentioning specific cases, said that South Korea has caused problems in many areas of cooperation. He added that the channels are open on Russian side and that it is up to the South Korean leadership to decide. On the other hand, Putin criticized the Western nations' delivery of long-range weapons to Ukraine, warning that Moscow could take asymmetrical steps. The U.S. and Germany recently authorized Ukraine to hit some targets on Russian soil with the long-range weapons they are supplying to Kyiv. Putin says such action could lead to very serious problems.
In the end, if we see that these countries become involved in a war against us, what they are doing makes them directly involved in a war against the Russian Federation. We reserve the right to act the same way. Overall, it leads to some serious problems.
He also singled out Germany for criticism, saying that its supply of battle tanks to Ukraine had resulted in an ethical shock in Russia. He added that Ukraine's use of Berlin's weapons to strike targets inside Russia would completely destroy Russian-German relations. Putin reaffirmed Russia's deepening ties with North Korea, emphasizing its commitment to developing relations. Regarding Pyongyang's nuclear program, Putin said that the North has shown a willingness to negotiate with the U.S. and others, and that the North Korean nuclear issue will be resolved when Pyongyang is no longer threatened. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
Experiments to induce artificial rainfall have been underway in Korea for some considerable time. And the Korea Meteorological Administration is now focusing on its work on preventing forest fires by raising the humidity through induced rain on top of natural rainfall. Cha Yoon-kyung reports.
The meteorological aircraft Nara flies through thick clouds with dispenser set in its wing, spreading silver iodide crystals. The crystals condense the water molecules in clouds, making them denser, which causes them to fall as rain. Experiments on cloud seeding to produce so-called artificial rain began in 1963 to prevent forest fires, utilizing aircraft and much later drones and other ground-based equipment. Artificial rainfall experiments to reduce the amount of fine dust blowing in from the Gobi Desert were started above the West Sea 5 years ago. However, they failed to produce any additional rainfall. And although last year saw the experiment's success rate rise by 86%, scientists deemed that this was still insufficient.
The average increase in the amount of rain was about 1.4 millimeters over the past 3 years using one aircraft.
Since the amount of rainfall has not increased despite the continuous experiments, the Korean Meteorological Administration decided to focus on raising humidity levels. From March to April, the moisture content of dried leaves is only 10.7%, but with rainfall, this goes up by 90 to 140%, reducing the risk of combustion and therefore wildfires.
As long as we can raise the humidity when it is dry, we will be able to prevent forest fires. That is our new approach.
The KMA plans to conduct 77 experimental flights to prevent forest fires this year using 2 additional aircraft. While disputes over the effectiveness of artificial rainfall continue, all eyes are on whether cloud seeding in 2024 will successfully prevent such fires. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
We begin today in the US and the private sector space race with SpaceX's giant Starship rocket surviving re-entry through the Earth's atmosphere on Thursday, while Boeing's Starliner managed to dock at the International Space Station despite a thrusters glitch on the same day. After launching from the Gulf Coast of Texas, Starship splashed down into the Indian Ocean as planned in its 4th test mission. Following disappointment in March when a previous re-entry attempt failed, SpaceX CEO Elon Musk took to social media to hail the mission's success despite the rocket taking some damage. Meanwhile, Boeing's CST-100 Starliner launched from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida and after some 27 hours safely docked at the ISS, delivering 2 veteran astronauts, Barry Wilmore and Sunita Williams, to the orbiting platform on Thursday. Despite a glitch in several guidance-controlled jet thrusters, the successful journey proved the vessel's flight worthiness, expanding the private sector space competition with Elon Musk's SpaceX. World leaders and heads of state gathered in Normandy, France on Thursday for ceremonies celebrating the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings and paid tribute to veterans of the Second World War. Present at the ceremonies were French President Emmanuel Macron, the UK's King Charles III, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, as well as US President Joe Biden and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Biden used his speech at the American cemetery in Normandy to highlight the importance of continued support for Ukraine, saying it was invaded by a tyrant intent on domination. D-Day took place on June 6, 1944, when some 150,000 Allied soldiers invaded Nazi-occupied France by air and sea, coming ashore at 5 beaches. Thousands of service personnel died in the mission, which proved a turning point in the war for Allied forces. The United Nations General Assembly elected Denmark, Greece, Pakistan, Panama and Somalia to the 15-member UN Security Council on Thursday. They will begin their 2-year terms on January 1, 2025, replacing Ecuador, Japan, Malta, Mozambique and Switzerland. The UN Security Council is the only UN body that has the authority to make legally binding decisions, such as imposition of sanctions and use of force. It has 5 permanent veto-wielding members: the UK, US, Russia, France and China. 5 new members join every year by a voting procedure at the General Assembly. seats are allocated to regional groups to ensure geographical representation. In the Himalayas, at least 9 Indian trekkers have died after getting trapped in a blizzard. The Indian Air Force's rescue teams airlifted the bodies of the deceased and 5 survivors to safety by helicopters on Thursday. A minister from India's southern state of Karnataka said the group of climbers were hit by a heavy blizzard during the hike, with snow and wind making movement impossible. He said that by 6 p.m., 2 trekkers succumbed to bad weather while they huddled together for the night on the route, before 7 more died in the night. A guide with the group managed to alert the rescue authorities on Tuesday evening about the situation, which helped the rescue teams reach the site early on Wednesday and begin the search.
Good morning. Seoul saw the highest temperatures of the season so far yesterday, reaching above 31 degrees Celsius, combined with that strong sunshine. And it felt like the heat stayed longer through the late evening. Well, for today, temperatures will go down a couple of notches in the capital area, but southern provinces will see highs going up a few notches this afternoon. Meanwhile, sun continues to shine down brightly in most places, boosting UV rays to a very high level this afternoon. So it's going to feel more like July during the day across Korea, hovering in the upper 20s. Then there is rain in the forecast starting from Jeju late this afternoon, spreading to the rest of the country. It will rain down heavily on the south coast and Jeju with 20 to 60 millimeters of showers in the forecast, possibly through early Sunday, but the rest of the country will receive 5 to 40 millimeters of showers tomorrow. And rain will bring a pleasant break from the heat on Saturday, then temperatures going right back up with another scorcher on Sunday. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back next Monday at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.
Welcome. (24시간) 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? Welcome. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, who's wrong? Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Straight through my heart.
입니다. 스탠바이. 스타트.
Presiding over Monday's cabinet meeting following his latest diplomatic agenda in New York, President South Korea's economy will grow. The central bank has kept its key interest rate unchanged. Mission complete. Foreign rocket booty selfish. Seoul is rallying in hopes of bringing the World Expo 2030. Arirang.
Welcome. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 웰컴. (24시간) 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, who's lying? Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Straight through my heart.
We are here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Friday, June 7th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and this is News Generation. Today, we're joined by Choi Ji-hee.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, the Friday girls. And Brooke Prince-too.
Hello, nice to see you.
Nice to see you all. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. As usual, we're going to start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online over the past 24 hours. It appears that 2024 is on its way to becoming the hottest year on record, According to the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service on Wednesday, May 2024 was the warmest May on record globally. This marks the 12th straight month in which the monthly high temperature record has been broken. The global average for this May, 15.9 degrees Celsius, was 1.52 degrees Celsius above the estimated average from 1850 to 1900. On the same day, the World Meteorological Organization warned that there is an 80% chance that the annual average global temperature could exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels for at least 1 year between 2024 and 2028, breaching the Paris Agreement goal. Moving on, have you ever imagined taking lectures from a K-pop star? G-Dragon has been appointed as a visiting professor at the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, better known as KAIST. The school announced on Wednesday that its mechanical engineering department made this decision to expand the global competitiveness of Korean culture by integrating the latest technology developed by the institute. G-Dragon will give lectures on leadership and host cultural events engaging with KAIST students. Now, ending off Pemin, the most used delivery service in Korea, has announced that it will start charging businesses a 6.8% commission fee for each takeout order. This means that if a restaurant receives a pickup order worth 30,000 won, the owner will now have to pay an additional 20,040 won to the platform. This packaging fee will be implemented starting July 1st, but businesses already on the platform will be exempt from this fee until March 2025. Now, this new fee rate is the same as Pemin's delivery commission. Pemin says that it delayed charging these fees for years to reduce the burden on businesses severely affected by the pandemic, and that it has been providing containers and packaging tools for free. Business owners have mixed reactions. Some find the fee manageable since pickup orders are a small part of their total orders, while others believe the commission rate matching that of deliveries is too high. So here in the studio, I want to ask you guys, as active users of delivery services, our generation being active users, what are your thoughts about this change? Are you concerned or not?
Well, I am definitely a frequent customer of these delivery apps. I think they are so fast, convenient, and pretty reasonably priced, especially because recently Payment, the app that we're talking about, rolled out their free delivery service as a part of their Payment Club membership, and I have definitely been taking advantage of that. But of course, every time you get something for free, something kind of has to give elsewhere, right, to compensate for it. So I think that's where this packaging fee is coming from. So I guess my concern would be that the owners of the businesses will see this fee and say, well, we have no other choice now but to raise our prices. So I hope that Payment will kind of keep an eye on that and be willing to make adjustments so that they can reduce the burden on customers and businesses as well.
I think you mentioned a really good point. A big reason why the general public is so concerned about its change is because this could potentially lead to businesses making their food prices even higher when we're seeing them becoming more expensive due to skyrocketing inflation. Now, Jihi, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, personally, I don't use Pemin. I use another delivery app. I only use it for B-Mart.
Which is like delivering groceries.
Exactly. It's very convenient. However, customers may have varying reactions to the implementation of these takeout packaging fees. Now, while some may be concerned about the extra cost and question the value of the service because it might put a burden on the customers in the end. But others may view it as a necessary addition to make the app more convenient to use and ensure the sustainability of the delivery service. I mean, it will need money to improve the service going forward, right? So it's important for Pemin, the service provider, to take into account these customer reactions as a whole and balance out them and adjust their fee policies and find ways to be able to better serve their customers.
I definitely get what arguments both sides are making and where they're coming from. So I guess that we just need more communication from both the delivery service platform, the businesses, and also customers. And that was our news feed for this Friday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. Today, we're going to focus on the cutting-edge technology that's transforming not only industries, but also our daily lives. It's generative artificial intelligence used in AI chatbots, for example, like ChatGPT. So let's first take a look at the screen to find out more.
Generative AI is a technology capable of creating new content, including audio, code, images, text, simulations, and videos based on the data it's trained on. The global spotlight turned to this technology after the launch of OpenAI's ChatGPT in November 2022. Since then, tech giants like Google have released their own models to gain a competitive edge in the market. What do millennials and Gen Z think about this groundbreaking technology that's rapidly becoming part of our everyday lives?
Right, with just entering a few keywords, this generative AI models can tell jokes, write poems, emails, essays, and summarize lengthy papers. Now, being the tech-savvy generation, millennials and Gen Zs, I guess, are active users of these tools, right, Jihi?
Yes, definitely. So ChatGPT has become like a personal assistant for millennials and Gen Z, including myself. The numbers support this well as well. Now, as seen on the screen, we can tell that over 85% of people in their 20s and 30s in South Korea have reported using generative AI, and 24% of them stated they use it almost every day.
Right.
Now, the younger generation, as we know, is known for their openness to new experiences and their quick adoption of new technology, and these statistics do certainly reflect that. And I am an active user of ChatGPT as well. I've used it to plan out the curriculum for my lectures, write news articles sometimes, and prepare for interpretation gigs by conducting background research. And at the end of last year, I even filmed an online lecture on how to write English prompts.
I think I saw it on your social media.
Yes, to effectively use ChatGPT. And I received great feedback for the lecture, as many people were eager to utilize the tool to obtain the search results they want by using the official language, which is English. And they say that if you put in English prompts, they give you better results.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Which is why people want to learn the proper use of prompts. And with the upgraded versions of these AIs, I've also tried making graphs, tables by inputting data. And as the version continues to be updated, sophistication and the accuracy of the tool seems to be continuously developing.
So it seems that Jihi is an early adapter. She's using these generative AI models really well. Now, Brooke, do you also regularly use these tools? What about you?
I think I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum.
It's always have to have balance.
Yeah, I've used ChatGPT one time just out of curiosity, but I do have a lot of friends that use it. My closest friend, she actually, whenever she has a personal problem, she asks it for advice.
Like a counseling service.
Yes, and I've looked at the responses, and they're actually surprisingly thoughtful and helpful. Of course, it can't replace actual therapy, but if you need an unbiased opinion, I think it's a much cheaper option. But for me personally, in terms of AI technology, I think the only thing that really falls under that umbrella is translation applications, which a lot of people don't think of as AI, but they do use machine learning algorithms in order to improve and get better at the language over time. So particularly when I first got to Korea, I relied on these heavily because I didn't know the language. And they're so cool because you can talk in English into them and then Korean will come out. So it can really help with that language barrier. But even now that I have more fluency in the language, I still use it regularly if there's a word that I don't know or if I want to say something a little bit more complex. So I would say as a language learner, AI tools have been essential in my journey.
Right. So as Jihi and Brooke mentioned, outlining lectures, searching for information, looking up unfamiliar words, and even learning the language are just a few ways to utilize these tools because this technology can do so much more, so much so that some people call these AI chatbots personal secretaries, as Jihi just mentioned. So we kind of prepared a very fun mini segment today. Well, I actually filmed a short video on some fascinating ways to use generative AI. So let's take a look.
I was supposed to be joined by a special guest, but right now she's just roaming up around my house. This is Tambi. She is our family's cute puppy. She's a 2-year-old Pomsky, and Tambi started barking really loud 10 minutes ago, but she went out for her daily walk today. So I guess that she's either hungry or she just wants to play. I'm thinking that she really wants to play, but it's too late to go out for another walk. So I'm gonna ask my AI chatbot on some games or activities that I can do inside the house to calm down Tambi and kind of entertain her. So let's take a look at what kind of recommendation my AI chatbot will give. So I'm going to enter my question to the AI chatbot. My question is, it's too late to go on a walk with my dog, but she seems to want to play. What can I do with her inside the house? So let's take a look at what kind of answers the chatbot will give. It says you can try playing a game of fetch with her using a toy or a ball, or you can engage in a game of hide and seek with her by hiding treats around the house for her to find. Another option is to play tug of war with a rope toy, or you can also try training her new tricks or practicing old ones. So out of this recommendation, I think that I'm gonna try out playing tug of war and also trying to train Tambi with new tricks or the ones that she's already good at. So let's start playing with Tambi. Right, so the first recommendation that the AI chatbot suggested was playing a game of tug of war. So Tambi really likes playing tug of war. As you can see, she's very passionate. So I think that I'm gonna play this with her for about like 10 minutes before moving on to the chatbot's next recommendations. All of this made me really hungry. I think I need to eat something like a late night snack, although it's almost midnight. I'm kind of into mandu, which is Korean style dumplings these days. So I think I'm gonna ask the AI chatbot a simple but delicious recipe of mandu. So follow me. The mandu, the Korean dumplings, I used pork, beef, napa cabbage, green onions, garlic, ginger, soy sauce, sesame oil, a lot of ingredients, and now they're ready. And the final step is cooking these dumplings. So the AI chatbot said steam the mandu for 8 to 10 minutes, but I don't have a steamer here, so instead I'm gonna boil the dumplings, which we usually do at our house. So I'm gonna start cooking it. Hope it turns out well. In terms of my life, so I just like to ask my general horoscope for the day after through actually AI chatbots kind of give you this fortune telling. So I'm gonna ask the AI chatbot what's my general horoscope for the day, and let's take a look at the answer. It says, in terms of career, you'll find your decision-making capacity enhanced, allowing you to take on risks that could strengthen your financial situation. Today's horoscope suggests a period of high morale and positivity across various aspects of your life. You'll handle important matters with strength and initiative, and professional travel might be on the horizon. This is a good day for focusing on your professional performance and plans. Well, I think I'm loving my general horoscope for tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to tomorrow as well. Well, every workday is amazing and lovely to just meet you guys on NewsGen, so
Well, I hope you guys and our viewers loved my small video. So by looking at the video and looking at what you guys, what we talked about here in the studio, it's really eye-opening.
Very
and
interesting.
I liked it. You have a future in vlogging, I think.
Yeah. Do I? Yeah, I highly doubt that, but thank you. So I think that it's definitely eye-opening and interesting to see that what this technology can offer and do. But as mentioned earlier, this is really interesting because these AI chatbots have been around for a relatively short time, at least the versions we know of. It's been about 1.5 years since ChatGPT was first introduced to the world, and since then we have been seeing the technology growing tremendously. For example, we've seen more upgraded models coming out. So Jihi, why do you think we're seeing such a rapid advancement in this technology?
Well, ChatGPT, as we've been talking about, is now widely used not only in schools, but companies and everyday life of people. And it's being applied to exams, even creative outputs, entertainment, information searching, and many more. And people also use generative AI to automate and streamline their daily tasks like scheduling, organizing emails, writing documents, and analyzing data even. And because of these various purposes, even over a short period of time, ChatGPT has been widely used and has become an inseparable part of our lives for many people. And the primary reason, as you see on on the screen is to improve work efficiency. And this is followed by self-improvement, generating creative ideas, and even just satisfying curiosity about what's trending.
Right.
And different from conventional search engines where they provide tons of information and you just have to select among the sea of data, with generative AI, you can directly receive what you ask for, as you've seen from Eugene's vlog, thus streamlining the whole search process as well, making it easier for us to get information.
Right, so these generative AI services, they definitely make your task and the process of doing your work much shorter. As you mentioned, enhancing work efficiency, and our generation, as we've talked about on NewsGen, is a generation that greatly values efficiency. Now, for you, Brooke, what do you think are some other reasons why this is becoming so big?
Well, I think it's grown in popularity because people are creative, and we've figured out all sorts of different ways to use this technology. For example, my brothers are both software engineers, and they use AI technology to test the code that they've written.
Really?
So whereas before they had to manually go through and do that, now it's an automated process. So it really cuts their time down. And in my case, I got my master's degree in interpretation and translation, and we learned how to use AI technology to help us translate. So if you had a 500-page document, let's say, for one person to translate that, it would be very, very difficult. He knows this very well. Yes, but if you run it through a computer first, then that means that you are more free to go through and do the more creative aspects. You can look and see if there are any mistranslations and maybe change certain words to be a better fit. So I think that as we go on, we're going to keep finding more creative ways to use AI technology in order to enhance our work and our lives.
Right. It can also definitely help enhancing the quality of our work as well. So now, for more on what's behind generative AI's growing popularity, which is what we're discussing about, and the future of this technology, we're going to invite an expert to join our discussion. We'll be right back after the break. Right, so today we're joined by Park Ju-yong, an associate professor in cultural technology at the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. Welcome, Professor Park, to the show.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. So, Professor, our first question for you today is, where do you think generative AI is in its evolution right now, and do you expect to see more advancements and development soon?
Yeah, so these days, what you see is what you get, meaning that whenever there is any development in generative AI, the companies are so eager to showcase them to public because it is evolving at such a rapid pace. And also, it talks quite well. So as a quick helper in that regard, it has really caught up. And the quality of music and pictures made by these are sometimes impressive to the experts. Though to expand the user base, the challenge will be to make it as easy as possible for more people, in which the most recent developments in interactivity is certainly addressing. Most importantly, though, how human, original, or creative the generated content can be is still a big question that needs to be thought about, because the role of humans in the process is in such a different form from the classical methods of using pens, wielding brushes, or playing instruments.
Well, Professor, why do you think the millennials and Gen Zs are the primary users of this technology, though?
Oh, yeah. So it is no wonder that the young generation who have known those highly personalized handheld smart devices all their lives are more into Gen AI, because it thrives in those environments, right? And of course, the tech is advancing so fast that those who are the most sensitive and receptive to changes definitely will have an advantage too. And the more a young generation uses something, the more dominant the method will become in their most active years, which makes it necessary for them to stay updated.
Hi, Professor. Thanks for joining us today. I have one last question for you. There are concerns about the potential dangers generative AI could pose to humanity. What are your thoughts on these risks, and how can we better prepare for them?
Yes, so the risks of Gen AI include social ones stemming from, hyper-realistic fake images and voices, and personal ones like further isolation of the individual from the real world, because people are spending more and more time on their small devices. And as far as individual lives are concerned, the latter is more worrisome to me because it may eventually limit how far one can develop the emotional connections with other humans and also creativity. You know, the one who had very fulfilling lives and made great creations in history have also been very actively socially, you know. So let's think about, you know, Beethoven and Picasso, for instance, who are famously members of a society of artistic peers in real places like Vienna and Paris, where they shared creative vision and techniques with one another and grew together. So if we want generative AI to be a force for social and creative good, we will need to foster more interaction between people, not less.
Well, thank you so much, Professor, for your amazing answers. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, too. Right, so as we briefly touched on this in our live interview in the last question about the risks and potential dangers that generative AI could cause, as users of these chatbots and services, what are your concerns about this fast-growing technology?
Well, while ChatGPT is now easily accessible, there are no established guidelines for its proper use. And so in this context, we must come up with these guidelines. And let me give you an example. For university report writing, for example, there's a debate regarding whether it constitutes plagiarism or cheating, or if it's a helpful tool for students. Some professors penalize students for using AI to submit assignments as their original work, while others permit its use as long as they add proper credit to ChatGPT and the content is verified. And I even asked my students in my lecture if they use ChatGPT, and many said that they do use it to complete assignments and homeworks. But as long as they can get their work done efficiently and learn from using the tool, I think it's totally fine with me. However, I am a little personally concerned that this might hinder students' creative and logical thinking skills, since ChatGPT doesn't always use up-to-date information even. You have to make sure that you don't rely on it 100% and always review and double-check for the fact as well.
Right, because if you heavily rely on these services, then you might think, oh, why do I have to brainstorm or think of ideas? I can just ask these chatbots by entering a few keywords. So it's definitely one of the biggest concerns. Now, what about you, Brooke?
I have many similar concerns. When I worked as an English teacher here in Korea, I had to grade essays and check them for plagiarism, and it was usually pretty easy for me to tell if it was far too advanced for their level. So I would just, if I had that sneaking suspicion, I would just look up a few sentences on Google, and of course the source would pop right up. But the thing with generative AI is it's technically original content because it's entirely new combinations of words. So that means that it's much harder these days to detect plagiarism. So from the perspective of a former teacher, I have a lot of empathy for teachers these days because now they have to grapple with a lot of new technology. And I also have a lot of concern for students that now they're going to start to use these tools as a crutch, and they're not going to develop those creative thinking skills that we want them to. I think it's very tempting when you have this thing that everyone is using that you think, well, why am I spending all this time and effort when I could just use this easy way out? So I think we really need to make sure that there is some human oversight and make sure that there aren't those unintended consequences.
Right, definitely a need for oversight. And we also asked our viewers if they're concerned about generative AI too and how their countries are addressing these concerns. And here's what 3 of them said. So if we look at the comments, Tasmia says generative AI or just AI may be helpful to businesses, but it's ruining people's hard work and work ethics. I will never ever use it, as you never know when it will become smart enough to create havoc for humankind. Leon says AI generated content could infringe on existing copyrights. Also, the ability to create realistic looking fake videos or audio can be used to spread misinformation and sow discourse. Singapore does not currently have specific laws or regulations, but the IMDA oversees AI development and promotes responsible use. Benny says, for me, the concerns of generative AI would be for translation accuracy, the reason sometimes what would be the right meaning of the said word in a different language to English. So looking at the comments, we can see that our viewers are indeed concerned about this fast-growing technology, but we cannot turn a blind eye to the potential dangers of generative AI. But I think that if we use it wisely, it will definitely become a valuable tool, helping increase our work and work efficiency. So very shortly, looking ahead, what do you think should be done to better manage this technology?
Well, international cooperation definitely, such as the EU's first AI Regulation Act, the AI Safety Summits that was held in UK and South Korea. And I think we should think of it as a complementary tool rather than a replacement of our knowledge or our skills.
Right, definitely having these discussion platforms seems to be very important now. What about you, Brooke?
Yeah, I just want to leave you with one thing that resonated with me that I read online. It said humans are doing all the hard jobs for minimum wage while robots are learning how to write poetry and paint. That was not the future that I envisioned.
Right.
So I think we really need to remember why we created this technology in the first place, to make our lives easier, not to replace us. As long as we keep that in mind, I think we're going to be okay.
Right, so these tools should be tools, not be the purpose of what people do. And that's all the time we have for today, but NewsGen is here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Choi Ji-hee.
Thank you.
And Brooke Prince.
Thanks so much.
And thank you everyone for watching, and hope you have a great weekend. We are News Generation.
한국에 오면 먹어야죠.